in India across sectors such as agri, health, industrial, smart cities. Along with Mr. Mohan Raju, General Manager of Danlaw, I'm the co-chair of the automotive track of IoT Forum, where we are focusing on disruptive technologies in the connected shared electric vehicle space across transport and logistics sectors. So hence, if there are any interested attendees representing startups, corporate investors who are working on this automotive topics, please do reach out to us with your ideas and suggestions. The Telegram links and contacts has been shared by Vinay already. So now coming back to the Eevee session, it may be helpful to set the context a bit for the general audience. According to WHO, the 70-80% of the world's most polluted cities are in India. Urban transport accounts for 30 to 40% of the total city's emissions. India also imports around 50 billion USD worth of oil. Hence, to meet UN GHG emission targets, Indian national government has set an ambition of decarbonizing the transport sector and achieve 30% EV adoption by 2030. The government in that regard has launched several initiatives to promote clean transport solutions, such as allocation of 10,000 crores under FAME2, both on the demand creation as well as to develop the charging networks. In May this year, the government also approved the production-linked incentive scheme with an outlay of 18,000 crores to promote manufacturing and export of advanced chemistry cell batteries, as well as from storage facilities. And in fact, last Wednesday, the Union Cabinet just approved the 26,000 crores production-linked incentive scheme for auto components and drone industries to enhance India's manufacturing capabilities. A significant number of states have also announced a respective e-policy focusing on demand creation as well as building the manufacturing capabilities to bring in more investments as well as to create jobs. The ambition is that such policies at national and state levels would unlock commercial financing across the value chain. From my experience, EV growth in India will be market segment specific, with two-wheelers, three-wheelers seeing the faster adoption of EVs. For example, India is already the second largest two-wheeler market in the world and sells around 16 million vehicles every year. Although the percentage of two-wheeler sales is less than 1 or 2% currently, we are seeing a fast e-two-wheeler adoption led mainly by the demand from the commercial segments like the last mile deliveries. This is because the total cost of ownership of e-two-wheelers, three-wheelers is already competitive to that of ICE vehicles. Hence, prior to COVID, we were seeing rise in investments to support business models related to ride-hailing and last-mile deliveries. However, if we go a bit upstream, we are seeing a different picture in terms of financing options for manufacturers. While there have been a couple of instances where entities have been able to raise large capital, a number of early-stage startups are facing challenges in attracting short to long-term funding that is impeding their goal. The focus of the session will be on the two and three-wheelers, but we will welcome any thoughts and comments from other market segments as well. So for today's session, we would assess these critical barriers with respect to OEM financing, whether it's a lack of indigenous tech, especially around the batteries, or say apprehensions about the lack of the robust domestic supply chain, or any existing regulatory gaps, or just the different investors' expectations. And then we will discuss potential ways to unlock commercial funding. We have lined up an excellent set of speakers representing both startups and investors. We have Mrs. Madhumita Agarwal, founder of Oben. We have Ranjita Ravi, founder of Oxa. We have Vishnu Rajiv, the venture investor at Michelio, the firm which is focusing on electric mobility. And we also have Sachin Mehta, co-founder of Autobird, the fintech firm. We are privileged to have Mr. Somsudra Chaudhary, partner of Bharat Innovation Fund, who will moderate the session. Through these discussions, we hope to unpack the key drivers to scale EV manufacturing in India, as well as unlock commercial venture financing. Over to you, Shom.
Great. Hey, thanks, Subranil, and thanks a lot, panelists. So today out here, I'm not wearing my investor hat. So I will be asking all the brutal questions to all of you guys, right? Great. Yeah. So we have a fantastic we will navigate multiple thoughts, right? And again, at a very high level, 10,000 feet level, hey, things look like, why the hell is it not happening in India? The EV, entire EV. I mean, there's pollution, there's a lot of demand, right? And so forth. The oil prices have touched 105 now, and it seems like a no-brainer. But a lot of, so what we wanted to cover in this specific panel discussion was more in terms of what are you guys hearing on the ground, right? What has been the challenges? What has been the problems, be it financing related, be it ecosystem related, be it manufacturing related, and so forth, right? So this is more about realities on the ground. That would be my focus. So starting off, I would request the two founders, Ranjita and Madhumita, to give kind of their perspectives. And frankly, Ranjita and Madhumita has been associated with our IoT forum, gosh, for the last 6-7 years from the early days of inception. So I'm really proud to see both of them trailblazing the Eevee space. In fact, it all started from Himalata Annamalai, who started Ultraviolet. And then we got these two women entrepreneurs leading OpenEV and Orha Energy, right? So over to you, Madhumita, and then to Ranjita. Would love to get your perspectives. And again, I know you guys might have some slides, so feel free to share. So would love to get perspectives about maybe why you guys got started, right, with your companies. What is the landscape that you see today? What has been the challenges, both in terms of getting stuff on the ground and as well as the financing aspect as well? So if you can get started, and then of course, we'll shift over to Vishnu and Sachin with more detailed questions. So speak from the heart, no holds barred, right? I'd love to get a complete perception about what is going on and what are the aspects that we can work on to improve things for you guys. So please, over to you.
Yeah, I think thank you so much. Good afternoon, all. And thank you, Ty, for this great opportunity. And thank you, Som and Suvarnil, for this platform. And how Som is putting just speak from heart. So it is little going to be a different discussion altogether. So really excited about it. So as we are, I think it's post-lunch, so I will not have a very long lecture and talk. But definitely I'll share the story of my second venture, which is Eevee, and how I started and what has been my journey till date and where are we heading to and what are the challenges we are facing. So just to start with, I'll quickly give a little background how Oben or how the Eevee story started in, was my first venture, which is into tech research consulting and helping companies in structured research and R&D support. That is where past 4 years, we kind of worked a lot in the Eevee space as Eevee was picking up across the globe. Because I think Eevee is taking up in shape, but yes, in kind of fragments in different parts of the world. So that is how I started building on that, kind of doing a lot of consulting, working with different stakeholders like component level, design, vehicle, and all. So that is the interest where I developed and the understanding, and also looking at the huge opportunity which it has. That is how the Eevee journey of mine started. When I started my first venture, it was into services. So always I had that once I get this automated, then definitely get into a product. But never I thought that product could be anything, but I never thought automotive, like, pinnacle of hardware and kind of a thing, but it somehow happened. And I would say that this pandemic has kind of hit us all in different ways, in positive ways, in negative ways. And I think many impossible things has happened. So that is how I actually started last year in August 2020. That, okay, decided that this is a space, this is a gap where we want to enter, the kind of impact Eevee is having in the future generation on, the environment. That is something took me as a driver that, yes, this is where I need to head in. Then definitely there is a lot of action happening, government or the big players and all of it. But still there are in pockets things are happening, not in a wholesome way, or yet it has to go to that level when we say, yes, now it's Eevee or electrified. India is electrified. So that's how I also started my research in that space to identify that where is a gap, or which is the segment where I want to enter and where I want to place OpenEV. August 2020, I started. Then having a prior, once I identified, okay, this is the gap, this is where I want to place myself or enter. The next important thing was my team, how I build up on the team. So bringing up the prior business experience of running a bootstrapped company to a multi-billion dollar customer back. The very important essence of a startup or a company is your team. After you identify the gap or the segment, is team. So
sorry, Madhumita, which gap did you identify? If you can just say in short.
Yeah. Yes. So I was coming to that. Okay, what is that we are? I'll cover that. Yes. So the next piece was that as a startup, two things we are limited with, or the scarcity. That is, one is time and money. So what you need is you have to optimize, you have to utilize your time as well as time to go to market, as well as the resource and money what you have. So you need to really have the things right in place, or as I said, team. So you need to really have a very, very strong team. So that was my next focus. How the journey of Oben, I'm just mentioning that the next focus was how do you put a very strong team, those who can have hands-on experience. Then the other important aspect, coming to Som's point, where was the gap? So if you look at Eevee, when electric two-wheelers, that's the segment where I am entering or I've entered. When you look at vehicles, electric, leave electric, two-wheelers, it's a product, it's a commodity. It is not a new thing which you are introducing to the consumer. Since ages, they are driving, let it be a two-wheeler or four-wheeler. What is that changing? What Eevee is changing or kind of bringing a change is the impact on consumer behavior. For example, if we take the example, how do I drive a Eevee? That's one. Second, how do I refuel a Eevee vehicle? How do I resale the vehicle? So these are certain consumer behavior aspects is what the Eevee is challenging. So that was our core focus as Oben, that first is the design. One is there are automotive sector is very, very matured in India. So we don't have to really kind of reinvent stuffs and all. What has to be focused from the consumer point is first is the design, because for the Eevee, for the two-wheeler or a four-wheeler consumer, this is like a commodity. It's a pride to own. So first, as a company, as a startup, or as, of course, OEMs take care of that. As a startup, as a growing company, we need to first focus that as a consumer, I should be able to feel pride about, owning that. Second is reliability, because reliability, safety, durability. Third important and critical aspect is your range. So as Oben, where we are focusing is the design, which the consumer is proud to own it. You should be trusting the product, that is reliability, safety, my life is on it, right, as a consumer. Third aspect is range, which is the piece which is different from your ICE segment. So as Oben, that is the area. I won't say it's a kind of a gap, it's a problem to solve.
Yeah.
As companies or as startups or Eevee companies, we need to really focus on the range piece. So that is the three things which as a company we are focusing. That's our, I would say, focus or focal point, or the products will stand for that. And that is where as a ecosystem also, when we come together, there are certain drivers we need to kind of bring up these kind of startups or companies which can come in the forefront. Now coming to the topic where we are. So just to give little where we are right now. So August, as I mentioned, we started. We have April, we completed our first. We have next year we are launching 2 products. We have one scooter, which the pre-production is ready in April, and then September we have a motorbike, and then completely indigenously
I'm
developed.
sorry, and have you guys disclosed the pricing, or it's
not yet, not
okay,
yet,
got it.
not yet. So right now, yes, completely indigenously developed by our superstar team, which I really focus as a business, not only Eevee, any startup. I think that's a key point, your team. So, and now we are getting into ARI approvals. So that's the plan.
So Madhumita, I'll probably come back to you with very specific pointed questions on challenges and so forth that you face. Over to you, Ranjita. It has been a longest journey for you. Would love to hear your story, please. Sorry, you are on mute.
Yeah. Can I share my deck?
Sure, please do.
Okay, I'm just gonna pull up a quick deck. It's just got about 5-6 slides. Is it visible for everyone?
Yep. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so hey guys, we're Orha Energies. We rapidly electrify all transport. I think I just wanted to set this little bit as a part of the context, right? Performance two-wheeler market is growing at 22% year on year. Just the electric vehicle market that we're targeting is a $1.6 billion market. At Orha Energies, of course, we have been growing 6x year on year for the last 3 years. We have very large marquee customers across the board, some very nice names to have always on your purchase order list. We believe in engineering, hardcore hardware, because we believe the product is more important than anything else, and the people need a seamless, no compromise product. So our B2C product, so of course we have multiple business lines. Our B2C product, which is the Mantis, is going to target the 250 to 300 cc market at a 140 kmph top speed and a range of 200 kilometers per charge, which is 2 times the closest competition that we have. And all of this is because we believe very strongly in IP ownership. We like modular, scalable systems. We've proven them in 8 different auto platforms in the last few years. A couple of things just to set the context, and this is not really a pitch for Orha, but this is really a pitch for the electric vehicle market itself. I think the slide that you have on the bottom left is everything you need to know about what's happening in India itself. So I think last year the sales numbers were a little down, but usually we do about 20 million units every year for the two-wheeler market. It's the world's largest two-wheeler market. And the performance segment, which is the 200 to 500 cc market, has gone from 2% to 10% in just about 6 years. It just shows how aspirational and how quickly growing India is as a market itself, right? Because it's a proxy for our disposable income. People who want to just get around would use just 100 or 150 cc vehicle. But if they're choosing to buy a 250 or a 300 or a 390, that is aspirational, right? That is disposable income. So this is what I wanted to show here. The other thing why we have chosen performance motorcycles as a product is because it's compact, it's exposed. You can't hide away the battery pack. You'll have too much of a weight penalty. So your battery pack has to be good. And of course, it's a great fun product to develop, right? We're all bikers, so that's why we develop the Mantis itself. So like I said, why we build the Mantis? Because we wanted to ride it. It's designed to perform and it's engineered to be sustainable. No compromise, of course, and no compromise on the range. So the 200 kilometers is the real range. Madhumita was just mentioning that range anxiety is a clear consumer concern. So we have one of the biggest real life ranges. This is not the IDC cycle or, the ideal range that you have. This is on road, and my team is testing this every day in traffic, right? The other thing is that we are engineered to be sustainable. Of course, electric vehicles are great for the environment. There's no tailpipe emission, but why stop at that? Why can a product not be end-to-end sustainable. And of course, during the discussion, we can of course talk about the project that Orha is doing with Sachin and his team at AutoWorth, because this is something that is very, very close to our heart. We are also part of the sustainability mafia with SOM, and sustainability is something that is critical to be built into the design of the product itself. So that's what the Mantis is. We've been, of course, doing sales for a few years now, several interesting markets: drones, leisure vehicles, sports vehicles, defense and aerospace.
Sorry, Ranjita, just a quick clarification. It seems like you are developing the core technologies, you are embedding that into your Mantis product, and the technologies like battery management and so forth that you develop, you're selling to other customers as well in non-related, in a non-2 EV sectors, correct?
Absolutely. So that's where I'm coming at. So this is our validation, right? But if you just look at the EV ecosystem, so just kind of to set the context itself, what is absolutely essential to an electric powertrain, and what is the complexity of integrating this with other subsystems? So you have, of course, you have the basics. You need a motor controller, and a battery pack to make an electric vehicle. At the next level, you would need also chargers, the HMI, and the vehicle control systems. And then you would need everything around the cloud-based asset management, maintenance, and vehicle engineering. What is like different levels of an EV? Having just a motor controller and an energy storage system, that's like a bare minimum for an electric vehicle. If you see if you add up the next layer, that makes it what I would call yet another EV. You have a display system. Yes, okay, they're giving you a charger with the vehicle, fine. But this is okay. The first one is okay for low-powered systems. Most of the CKD kits, for example, would be just that and a little bit more. But what really truly makes a product that somebody wants to buy, what makes a product that is sustainable, that is credible, that is something that is non-negotiable in a consumer's mindset, is when you have the entire picture, when you have all of the elements of the 3x3. So this is where we are, where Orha Energy is. And,
so you are a full stack. You are a full stack, all design in-house and so forth.
We are a full stack, hardware-oriented startup. We build resilience across industries. So like Madhumita was saying, the lockdown and the pandemic was interesting for us. Good and bad. Some of our teammates did get sick with COVID, but we had some extremely interesting projects of which I'm not allowed to do PR, but maybe after October I can speak about. But what that really proved to us is to have credible and sustainable barriers to entry in the EV segment. Owning technology is a no-brainer.
Got it.
Right? Yeah. So of course, I can share these videos and links later. The last thing that I wanted to just leave you with is that we need R&D and manufacturing that is designed to perform. Just if you see the industry trend, you will see that performance segment is a non-negotiable, right? The consumer is not going to be happy with just a low performance segment. Just in the 200 to 500 cc category, there are more than 14 models of two-wheelers in the market. Just in the 200 to 500 cc, there are 14 models of two-wheelers in the market right now in India, right? So performance itself is not going to be a non-negotiable. How does consumer adoption in this segment work? For EVs, how does consumer adoption work? And like I was mentioning previously, IP ownership and owning hardcore hardware is a non-negotiable for barriers to entry in the segment, right? And of course, the questions to the panel and of course, what we can discuss is how do we get there, right? How do we make these people convinced about EVs? They are convinced about EVs. All of our market research, and we do one every year and every 6 months or so, proves to us that people are very interested in electric vehicles and very interested in motorcycles.
In fact, we will come to the psyche of the customer, how it's
is Is it the infrastructure? Actually,
Correct.
from my research, I don't think so.
Okay.
Is it that startup needs some sort of creative financing? Do we have like a NIH or a DARPA model for electric vehicles in India? Or is it more towards like corporate projects? Because we have done a number of paid corporate projects with either the tier one guys or with actual OEMs or with different segments like aerospace and defense. So is it something like that? Yeah.
So we will come back to you guys. So Sachin, would love to get your thoughts. I mean, as far as from an AutoVert perspective, if you can just speak maybe at a high level, what you guys do and so forth, what kind of financing you do for the automotive two-wheelers. Is it B2B, B2C? But I'm looking specifically for what are you seeing on the ground? Are you seeing the EV buyers? Is it primarily from metros? Is it going into the tier 2, tier 3 cities as well? More from a B2C standpoint? What kind of companies are embracing the B2B? What kind of financing that you do? Love to hear again. I think the whole goal of this discussion is not just high-level report numbers, but what are you guys seeing on the ground?
So thanks, Som. Very interestingly put. You got a number of questions in there. So let me try to answer them by breaking it into the parts. What we do. AutoVert set out to, my co-founder was with Infosys, and at that point of time, he was tracking the mobility solutions at a point of time. And when you were discussing, one of the ideas that came up is that should we look, how does electric mobility sound? And as an industry, it's probably not even at nascent stage, but why don't we do something pertaining to this? And among the 3-4 different ideas that we bumped off each other, this kind of stayed with me for some time, and I got back to me and said, yeah, let's look at it. And what we realized is that electric mobility was there. Lead acid battery vehicles were there. This is 4 years back. Ather had its first prototype then. We were engaging with them, and at very early stages, they were imagining the product, and we told that, okay, to take it to market, what do we do? There were the auto dealerships which are already available, and then there was this thing that Ather had this thing that can we take it directly to the customer at that point of time? Yeah. And we told, yes, this is the way to go. And
the Tesla model, right?
The Tesla model. And the idea was to, how is it that we digitally onboard the customer and provide, for anybody to buy, you need to provide financing comes at the top of the chain, because that is required first to adopt to a new technology. And while India is the largest two-wheeler market, 21 million the year before last, before COVID struck, but it was only primarily loans, and that has not been, other than the models which are coming out, the dealership model, the financing model, etc., everything is same. That is, you enter a dealership, you got 3 guys standing over there from different banks or different financial services firms, they are giving you. So we thought, can we reimagine this? And that's how we started and put together our tech platform to address the financing issues. And we thought the best way to do it is, let's come up with an alternate finance model for Ather, which was our first OEM. And we found a very good resounding success from the Bangalore customers who were early EV enthusiasts, and told that we love this product because it was an all-inclusive plan. We were offering some kind of a cashback, etc., etc. So we had to get innovative on ensuring that electric had the anxiety issue come in at that point of time. We want to take that away. So we addressed it by devising a financial product around it. And I would tell that we had a fairly high NPS on the product itself, and the experience turned out to be awesome because it was fairly well integrated with the OEM's website. And at that point of time, they had only one dealership, which was their own company-owned dealership. Now, this is commercial operations about November, December of 2018. Fast forward it to 2021.
And you guys started with Ather as a customer, was it?
Yeah, Ather was our first OEM and as a customer. And we were the first company in the country to provide EV leasing on a vehicle. So we start off with the two-wheeler as a form factor. It rang a bell with most of the customers, and we found a very good customer base because the first time we were very conservative in whom do we onboard as customers, and we got the customers that we actually pegged very high in our order. So it came out very well. Fast forward now, two things have changed. I think there is some sanity in these 18 months that is driven in all of us, that let's look at our environment around us, because I think what we are giving to the environment is giving it back to us. So I think that is in some form of fashion, maybe it may be that there is COVID which has opened up our eyes. But having seen that being one of the things, the other thing is the fuel prices. They are out of whack, right? So there is no option. So now the current customer base is such that they want the aspirational product to buy, not for anything else, because the running cost is 1/10, mind you, from an ICE engine vehicle, two-wheeler, to an electric, it is 1/10. It just makes immense sense to upfront also pay a little bit more.
And Sachin, who are your customers? Are these environmentalists, millennials? Give me the profile of your.
A very good mix of millennials, a very good mix of people in their 40s who have understood, who have ridden enough number of vehicles and now are looking at trying out something new, because they've got probably a couple of four-wheelers in their home, but they would like to now ensure that they drive an electric two-wheeler and ensure that there is no tailpipe emission. So, I mean, people are becoming conscious, surely, slowly, but surely.
Are these primarily metros? So which
yeah, metros. We go after the OEMs markets, so we are largely present in the metros. But having said that, if you ask me, is there a need in the rural markets? Of course, yes. I tell you where the need is more, because for them to fill petrol or fuel in their vehicles, they have to travel sometimes 8 kilometers, 9 kilometers. The biggest freedom which one feels with the electric vehicle is they've got a charger at home. And this anxiety of range is only an anxiety. It's been busted by us. Our customers have seen it. The average kilometers being driven in cities across our customer base and our OEM's customer base is on an average of 22 to 24 kilometers per day. And the range which all of these good vehicles are giving is in excess of 75. So, I mean, one charge, the biggest liberation which our Eevee owner has is that he goes, if at all, to a fuel station is only to fill air, not to fill fuel. That's a great liberation. That's a great liberation.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you are also financing B2B companies as well?
We are looking at B2B very selectively, because financing is, if you put it, we believe that finance is commodity at the end of the day. It's a matter of time. We believe that if the government, which it has already shown with the FAME to subsidy, with the PLI schemes, etc., going, there's a hard push by the states, by the state governments, by the central government. We believe it's just a matter of time, maybe 3 months, 6 months, maximum a year. We believe financing of electric two-wheelers or electric vehicles should come, and maybe select one, maybe just 2 and 3 wheelers, may come under private sector lending. And we believe that is going to take the market off completely. That is going to be a changing moment. And it's just a matter of time. If most of the big e-commerce companies on the B2B side have already announced that by 2025, they want their fleets to be all electric. So that is already a push coming from their end. It's a matter of time. And in the near term, the B2B use cases are always going to be higher, just because there is a business case for it. The total cost of running, like I told, is between as low as 1/10 to maybe 1/6, 1/7. But that's true in two-wheelers and three-wheelers. And we are seeing in the last 3 months sales data, if you see, of the electric vehicle surge, it is very imminent that it is just going to take off. The three-wheelers is going to take off fairly well. Two-wheelers, unfortunately, there are not enough supply to cater to the demand. We are in that situation.
So we will come back. I have a bunch of questions. I mean, whatever you can publicly discuss, would love to hear your thoughts. But over to you, Vishnu. I mean, hats off to you guys. EV focused or focused VC fund, right? That takes guts and a lot of conviction. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about kind of your investment thesis, the landscape, the value chain. Which areas, is it kind of the downstream in terms of financing, in terms of charging and so forth, what you guys are looking at? Or are you moving kind of a bit more upstream into components, batteries, and so forth? Would love to get your thoughts. So what What is your thesis? What's exciting? What kind of companies have you invested in and so forth?
Sure. Thank you so much, Som, and thanks, Subranil, for inviting me to join here. Hi, Ranjita, Madhumita, and Sachin. Madhumita, I know you really well, but others, very nice to be on this panel and share some thoughts. I'm not an expert. I have to tell that in advance, even though it's the end focused on the EV space. But happy to share the thoughts. And Som, to just start with, to simply give a two-word answer. Everything. We will take everything in EV. Just if you have something working in the EV space, or if you're doing something, just come and speak to me. And I actually jotted this down. Anybody listening right now and want to discuss a company, I have an open calendar in my LinkedIn, a Calendly link, and my email is right there. So feel free to write, or just not even schedule a call in any available slot.
And I suppose Madhumita and Ranjita, you guys have pitched to Vishnu already?
Madhumita, yes, I have never spoken to Ranjita.
Okay. I keep talking to Kisle though.
Okay.
From Misli. Yeah.
Kisle is part of the Misilio group, and he leads a product development company.
Yeah, they were trying out our battery packs for a little while.
Yeah, okay. Madhumita and I went to the same college, IIT Kharagpur. So
actually, me too. Yeah.
I know, obviously, Som, I'm say that. Som and I have that connection too.
Yeah.
Just to give a brief idea about our fund. So I personally work for two different funds, Axelor Ventures and Misilio Fund. Both are sister funds, so it's just possible that I can focus on the clean mobility side through Misilio, and the rest of the climate and clean tech through Axelor. Misilio is a part of a larger umbrella organization under the leadership of Shreyas Shibulal, and there are multiple entities, legal entities, which come under that umbrella brand. So we have a product company which is developing a two-wheeler for the logistics space that we just discussed. There is logistics arm which is working with the e-commerce companies, and then there is also two ecosystem level entities. One is called Misilio Discovery Studio, which is like a maker space where hardware entrepreneurs, especially in the EV space, it's just difficult, right? Iterating and developing hardware. It's not like software where, in a click, you can just update the product and you are there. It's not possible. And hardware, the entrepreneurs here I'm sure they will relate to it so much more, that it's just so.
Yeah, we typically at IoT Forum, we kind of say hardware is hard.
Yeah, hardware is definitely hard. It's like, you kind of have to say the effort quite a few times while you are doing the development. And I'm sure, so what we do is at the Discovery Studio is provide a space, maker space kind of, collab where startups can come and have, for a subscription fee, access large, multiple infrastructure and testing solutions they may need to develop and iterate their product. And there's a community as well. And then the fourth entity is what I work for. I lead the Clean Mobility Investments. It's a $20 million fund dedicated exclusively for clean mobility. Because it's a fund, I have just, managed to broaden the scope of the promoter from just EV to the larger clean mobility. I just wanted to diversify in some aspect, but we are primarily focused on EV. And we also look into aviation, drone technologies, water-based transportation, space tech to some extent. But in the EV space, especially terrestrial EV space, we are very much across the ecosystem. I have made investments in OEMs. I made, we look into OEMs. We look into, the component.
Any specific examples you could provide if these are public?
See, OEM is a tricky play. Anytime a VC wants to invest, in our case, because we have a two-wheeler OEM already funded by the, by Shreyas under a different entity. We have not made any investments in two-wheeler, companies, but we have invested in a, company called Cell Propulsion. It's an electric powertrain company that makes powertrains specifically for light commercial and heavy duty commercial vehicles in India. It's a very emerging space. It's not as crowded as the two-wheeler spaces. And we have made some investments in that particular company. Happy to talk more if people have questions. Apart from that, I have been looking into startups across the board in alternative chemistry, battery technologies which have been developed to particularly address efficiency or some of the biggest problems like thermal runaway, etc. that these guys have to worry about on a daily basis. And then again, about among the component parts, components, so motors, controllers, anyone who is indigenously developing always gets an ear from us to just even listen at the very basic level. We also look into, downstream activities, especially what Sachin is doing. I really admire what you're doing, Sachin. The other day I was just talking to a partner from another VC fund, and he was asking me, what do you want in India that's there in the other, a little more matured EV markets abroad? I mean, I was like, I really don't want anyone to develop new technologies because, we are we have really smart folks like Madhumita and Ranjita who are doing very well on the hard technology part, and people will do it. But what I really want is somebody who starts looking into the ownership disruption. The market is fundamentally changing. The dealership model that has been in existence, it cannot survive anymore. There is no, the dealership margins used to come from, maintenance. And maintenance is going to be, almost 40% of what it used to be. And spare parts, how many, Ranjita had that excellent slide. That's it. That's the number of spare parts on an EV, the maximum you can go. So how many spare parts is the dealer going to sell? So, we need an integrated solution, or at least few players which will do that from, say, financing, insurance. Can somebody even capture that small margins that they will get it from maintenance and servicing? I mean, just because there's no money doesn't mean that we can't not. That needs to be provided. So the market is structurally changing, and then how can we capture value from that structural change? And also being cautious that when will the structural change happen? Where once the hockey stick growth in adoption of EVs happen, perhaps then, but we just don't know. Ola is giving some very, very good signs for the industry as such. Apart from that, just like the subscription model Sachin was speaking about, leasing model, and how do you address the B2B use case which is coming up? So we are looking into all of that, and we have very, very specific thesis on that as well. And in the infrastructure side as well, I have made an investment in a swapping company called Race Energy, battery swapping company. They are working with three-wheelers and doing swapping. So some thesis around where is swapping going to be played, and few in the, I'm also looking into few charging companies as well. And just to give a last one-liner, I think the major growth in the EVs are going to come from, as everybody says, two-wheelers and three-wheelers at the first. But I also very strongly think that for four-wheeler light commercial vehicles and electric buses have a case. Electric buses will be primarily pushed by the governments because of the mandate to move to EVs. But those are the sectors which are going to take off, unlike in the West, where four-wheeler passenger vehicles led the way. Thanks.
Got it. So I like to kind of, my next question is, we'll start off with Ranjita, Madhumita, but I'd like to have even Subranil, Sachin, and Vishnu to kind of comment on this as well.
Sure.
So if you look at the landscape today, and I'm just, because of the audience and because of the panelists, I'm just focusing for the time being on the two-wheeler EV market, both scooters and bikes. And if you look at overall, it seems like there are two top players today, right? I mean, at least not in terms of volume as yet, but at least in terms of the amount of funding they have raised, Ather, Ola.
Sure.
You got a bunch of these current incumbents, be it TVS. In fact, TVS just bought another Swedish company, I think, today.
Yeah.
Right, for a small 18 million bucks. Hero, then Bharat Forge just taken up a stab at Torque motorcycles. So all of these large incumbents today who have traditionally been in the IC engine, they have taken kind of smaller bets. They're doing stuff on their own. Plus, they have taken up smaller bets, plus they're acquiring or trying to acquire companies as well. And I think the question back to you, Ranjit and Madhumita, given, and the perception is, and there's a lot of B2B companies as well. So given the perception, when you talk over with the investors and so forth, people might come back and say, guys, this seems to be already taken. Why are you doing another EV company anymore, right? And Vishnu also made a comment, something on those lines. So frankly speaking, over to you guys, what is your USP? What is the gap that you guys are seeing in the market, be it on the performance side, be it on the price performance, the right range? I would love to hear your thoughts on how you guys are pitching to the investors, please.
Yeah. So I think, first of all, I think we need to understand it's a huge market, right? And there has been certain perception created that it's crowded, there are many players, OEMs playing a different role, some funded startup playing a different role, and there is a segment which brings CKD products, they are playing a different role, B2B segment playing a different role. So what has been my experience with the investor per se, definitely, that yes.
Tell us how you are pitching to the investor as well.
Yeah.
Please.
So first of all, one is the market is huge. The market is there for everyone. I think, as I mentioned, that as of when we are standing or we are focusing on three things, that your product is the hero. First, you need to have a great product, right? Second, the product should solve the purpose of the consumer. The pride, that the design, the reliability, continuously doing some innovation to make it up to the market, because I don't think it's something new what we will be doing. And the killer is your range. Every company should work towards that, innovate or do a lot of improvement on how to give a best range. So that as Oben, we are focusing that we are committing the consumer best range, or I would say highest range. When we will launch or when we will disclose all the specs, definitely that will speak for itself. So that is where we are focusing, and we are pitching to the investors.
Got it. Ranjita, your pitch essentially?
So
the performance focus, performance and vertical integration.
Absolutely. So we focus really on the solutions itself that we offer. The Mantis, of course, is our flagship product. So that's the only thing that you'll see out in the news about us. The Mantis also targets empty space in the market. Like I said, in the performance segment of two-wheelers, there are 14 IC engine models and 0 EV models in the market right now. There are very few players who are targeting the range that we are doing at a very similar price point. There's no product like ours in this market. So it will be, I think, India's first naked sports fully electric motorcycle, the Mantis. But the Mantis is not the only thing that we're doing, right? We have a very large business. Almost 80% of our business is in stealth, and we work on a number of B2B, very interesting projects over there as well. So we are focusing on really a full stack IP-driven hardware solution for the market. I think we have raised rounds of investment. We've raised a couple of rounds of investment. We're currently raising a few rounds of we have raised a current round of investment as well. But for us, it's more important when our customers speak for us,
Right.
rather than any and all PR around VC news. I mean, sorry to say this in front of Ms. Elio and Bharat Fund, of course, but for us, it's, as a startup, it's far more valuable when one of our customers gives us a testimonial.
And is the bike out for the audience to
Soon.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we have reworked the entire engineering of the bike, like I said, to be way more sustainable than what it is. There's lots of interesting changes. We will be making a couple of announcements around Diwali. We've just finished a couple of our defense projects now as well. So the team we should be ready to make a few announcements around Diwali for the Mantis specifically. But that's not our only bike. Huh? I think that's the important part. You know, you cannot. India has a once in a lifetime opportunity. Like somebody else was saying recently, I forget who it was. I was listening to another talk. Last time automotive industry was going through a revolution, India wasn't even its own country, right? We were still a colony. Right now, we have a once in a lifetime opportunity to drive this industry. We have the hardware talent, we have the software talent, we are the world's largest, pretty much automotive Tier 1 suppliers in India. It's probably one of the largest in the world. We are the largest two-wheeler market in the world, right? And just in terms of the pressures of the market, both in terms of cost and performance, the demands on performance as well as the demands on cost really make it a fantastic product that should develop in India that can be launched all over the world. So the Mantis, for example, is European highway ready already. Right. So when we launch it, it is already going to be the European highway ready. And of course, we do a number of projects with European organizations as well already. So that is our pitch, but it's more a pitch to our customers rather than to investors.
And Sachin, would love to hear your thoughts. I mean, what kind of, you have seen customers, actual customers up close, what their wants are, what they want to buy and so forth. So the emerging customers, which direction are they kind of moving towards? Is it more focused on performance segment? Are they looking at just the total cost of ownership? How are they making their decisions?
So the base of everything, Som, is India is a very price conscious market. So they will count how much they're paying out from their pocket first. And post-COVID,
but in this particular case, they probably cannot ask, right? Kitna deti hai? Do they ask?
They should.
Okay.
They should and they will. So there has to be smart ways, and that is where smart ways of financing will need to emerge, because this is not your normal ICE engine vehicle where you could go to a fuel station and put in fuel for running around. You already got a battery in the vehicle, and which constitutes a good 35 to 40% of the cost of the vehicle currently. And in future, currently the government is of course subsidizing through FAME 2 subsidies. State subsidy is there. But as we've seen in other countries like the US or China, it's a matter of time, right? FAME 2 subsidies till 2024, if I'm right. 2025 maximum, they may extend by a year. But once they've given that initial fillip, it is going to go away. And that is when the reality is going to hit. And we are also thinking of products which would be more apt 2 to 3 years down the line, which is how can we bring down the sticker price of a vehicle? Can we sell the battery separately and the vehicle, the shell separately? And that is what is going to be the model, because that is essentially what India is used to currently, right?
So Sachin, let me come back to you on this specific question. So I had a very specific question on separating out the bike versus the battery. What do you do on the afterlife, the second life of the battery and so forth? So let me come back to you. But Vishnu, would love to hear your thoughts. Say, suppose you did not have taken a bet, right, via some other entity on a two-wheeler OEM, right? What would you be kind of looking at from your landscape study? So I'm going to put you on the spot, please.
Honestly, Som, I'm very glad we have a conflict of interest. There are such amazing bike models out over there.
That's too safe an answer, Vishnu. We
No,
are
no,
not
no,
going to
no.
let you go.
I'll tell you. But
Yeah.
like, I mean, the reality is, I mean, you have no idea how happy I am that I don't have to pick. There are like such great entrepreneurs working on such great stuff. Like, it's just so difficult to pick, to be very, very, very honest with you. I have to tell Ranjita as well. Ranjita, yeah, please don't appeal to the investor, appeal to your customer.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Investors will come if you do a good work on appealing to your customer. Investors are like somehow we are just like the necessary evils which the system created. In ideal case, you just have to you should be growing by yourself with your customers. That's it. So don't let's it's a good thing that you're not even publicizing about your fundraise and all. Wait for your launch, and I'm sure there'll be huge takers for your product, and the same goes with you for you, Madhurita, as well. Yeah, see, if I have to look into two-wheelers, or for that matter even three-wheelers, right, like it's the same factors people have mentioned over here. I really love to look into the affordability factor. So and when I'm thinking about affordability, when it comes to individual vehicle owners, Indian vehicle owners do not think about lifetime value. They are mostly thinking about what sort of what is their upfront investment. So if through not so formal sources, I do know that a lot of the Aethers and Uber, Olas are subsidizing some of the cost price currently available in the market with VC money or the PE money they have with it. But like, if you can actually really bring down the cost or the price of the vehicle somewhere in the range of a 130% of, say, a comparable ICE vehicle, I think customers will definitely start seeing the benefit. But then again, if petrol and diesel does not get under GST and we go with the current regime, the pricing for the ICE is also doing a tremendous job in people making this shift. Some of the models might have to be revisited if the price, there would be a 25% decrease in the current petrol or diesel prices if they get included in GST. That aside, so affordability is definitely one. And the second part to this affordability is exactly what Sachin is doing, right? Like there has to be a product which is dedicated to EV. It's not just about selling, at least in the next couple of years, it's not going to be just about creating a financing product and saying it's just not sustainable for NBFCs to do that, especially given how there is no resale market or a secondary market for EVs currently is non-existent. Right. So then the question is always for the financiers, it's always about how do you manage the residual value of this vehicle? Where do you liquidate it if something has to happen? And that there is so to be any two-wheeler OEM that is coming to me, or if they are coming to me at all, that they need to have a clear answer on how they are thinking about it, and that answer also thinks about the channel distribution strategy, etc. And how do you address the customer? Some of these are also public good level discussions, like addressing the range anxiety is not just about telling them that this offers 150 kilometers, but it is also a public good to just demonstrate optically that charging stations are available at locations and people can come and do it. So that's from a customer angle. But then right now technology is superior. A lot of people are, and I will definitely look into technology. But for me, if I have to evaluate a two-wheeler company, one of the foremost factors would also be how are you taking your product to the market.
GTM is the primary
strategy. So go-to-market strategy is so important, and I'll tell you why. There are 70 startups in two-wheeler startups in India right now, and I know I have counted at least 50 of them funded. And then I do know some in stealth mode, which are not even in these lists and have tremendous funding. So the question really is, it is a crowded market. In a few years, consolidation is likely to happen. So who will do the right things? If I have to pick a winner, then the questions would be like, who will do the right things so that the last 10 standing, one of them will be in that last 10 standing.
And Vishnu, would you look at B2B sector at this point or strictly B2C?
Yes, I mean, I don't specifically say B2B as such, but like I think B2B is the fastest growing sector for any vehicle at this stage. Not just two-wheeler, also in three-wheeler space. It's not the auto rickshaw segment that is growing. It is actually the three-wheeler cargo that is growing faster.
Right.
The size of the opportunity is still high in the B2C space and in the, for two-wheelers and three-wheelers.
And probably relatively fewer players as well.
Yeah, I don't know. There are enough people who are dangling in both spaces. It's just a different demon altogether when it comes to B2C. B2B has like a much more organized nature to it, which kind of provides channels which people can tap into. And trust me, all the e-commerce companies are fully making use of that as well.
Yes, yes. Supranil, I just wanted to, you keep talking about with a lot of international investors. You look at the markets in Europe, in US, in Southeast Asia, and I know we have talked in the past, you have a lot of discussions with the global investors and the VCs about the Indian market, about the overall EV space. Would love to hear your thoughts. When you speak with international investors, even within IFC and so forth, what are their perspectives of accelerating the India market? Are they energized? Are they looking at investments in India? I know I see a couple of names like Takuma-san has joined in. He represents METI from Japan as well. So just wanted to hear your thoughts, Subramanian. What are you guys hearing from the global or international markets?
So, I think the short answer is there is a definite interest from the venture capital world across the EV value chain. I would say broader in the mobility space as well. And if I have to describe mobility, is in the autonomous, connected, electric, and in the shared mobility. So a lot of investments, as you know, pre-COVID, as well as now has gone to the shared mobility space, as well as a lot of investments are being in the autonomous vehicles space as well. And in addition to just general investors, we also have very sector-specific venture firms, like you mentioned, trucks, Autotech Ventures in US. We have the Maniv in Israel, as well as Japan and the European-based investors who are keenly looking into the ecosystem. And I think prior to COVID, I think also was mentioned by the other panelists, a lot of focus was on the shared mobility application side, as well as in the last mile logistics. So we have seen investments in the Bounds and the Vogos of the world who were not electric, but were in the two-wheeler space. And all of them had made an announcement to also move into the electric vehicles segment. So there is a definite interest, I would say, in the downstream of the value chain from both the global investors as well as institutions such as ADB as well as IFC. But I'd also like to mention a key point. So a link with your earlier question was that India is a large E2-wheeler market, but it's very important to kind of understand it by like segments, like low speed versus high speed, B2B versus B2C. And lastly, which was not mentioned, discussed much, was urban versus rural markets. I was talking with an NBFC where 70% of the E2-wheeler sales for the last year were coming from the Tier 2, Tier 3 cities. So there is a market for this type of vehicles as well. And we talk about B2B, and there was a lot of discussion around the demand driven not only by environment, but because of the total cost of ownership and because of fluid economics. But still, when we discussed with them, their three main points was the range, then how long will the vehicle last? Because for them, the economics to work, it has to at least last 2 and 3 years. And then, of course, on the financing discussion, and where Sachin mentioned, and we have been having the discussion about innovative financing models like leasing or subscription, And so how do you really kind of reduce the upfront cost as well as manage the financing? So I think that's where we have seen, and that's maybe one of the reasons where we have seen the fleet operators also may not be directly, except for Ola, but for others who are doing like strategic partnerships with OEMs and coming up with new vehicles. And again, this may not be the very customer friendly or kind of very high end, high speed vehicles, but these are the vehicles which addresses the concerns of the B2B fleet players. So we will see a definite market for that as well. But also, I guess I think the Oxa as well as Oben, I think there is also a kind of definite market for them. So yes, I think there is a definite optimism. But in terms of the investor sentiments about India, I think even 1 or 2 years back, because of various reasons, that the first version of electric mobility was basically the people were assembling the parts from China and other countries, right? But things have developed much more, and we have seen indigenous technologies be developed by very smart startups. So people are aware, but they're also kind of are kind of apprehensive about the real technology, the market, and especially the context, especially in say, India. So although they may have made investments in the two-wheeler space, in the micro-mobility sectors in US, but they understand that Indian conditions are very different. Like the customers, the road segments, which batteries will last for like X number of years. So what I see as the trend is one is like strategic partnerships is what they will look into. So enter into an investment jointly with an Indian investor on board, and that's what we are already kind of seeing. And I think thanks to entities such as Michelle and Vishnu, that it was very important to have national venture capital pouring capital into this space, because that gives the comfort to the international investors to put it in a kind of an asset class which meets their kind of criteria, both in terms of the timelines and the returns.
Got it. Great. Hey, I just wanted to, there was a question out here as well. So this is more in terms of the separation of the battery and the vehicle, the options of leasing of the vehicle, the typical timelines that you guys are seeing in terms of the lifetime of the battery and second life. So Sachin, could you take that? I mean, as of our previous conversation, I saw a question on that regard. So that will address two of them.
Sure. So great question. So like I was pointing out, when compared to an ICE engine vehicle or ICE engine two-wheeler, the electric two-wheeler is slightly different. And when I say slightly, in terms of there are two large components. One is the battery, which constitutes currently a good 35-40% of the cost of the vehicle. And both the life cycles are also very different. The batteries and good battery packs would have a life of almost 7 to 8 years, whereas the vehicle may have slightly shorter, slightly larger lifespan, depending on which vehicle it is. So that is the case. And we believe, we as AutoWord believe that there is a very good case for ensuring that the vehicle, the two-wheeler itself is sold separately and the battery is sold separately, just because it would reduce the sticker price of the vehicle as such. And there is a clear case. These are connected vehicles. There are use cases, and our platform basically has got use cases built upon making such business possible for OEMs. Everybody stands to gain. The customer, who is the main crux of this whole issue, and the fulcrum, stands to gain because he or she has to pay a lower price, because they don't have to pay. So basically, if it's a 1 lakh rupee vehicle, you get away by paying a 60,000 rupee and you get the vehicle. And then you just keep paying, probably on every 2 days or 3 days, just like your chota recharge of your mobile. You do a recharge of your battery pack and you go on and move. That is something where we believe 3 years down the line, this is where the market will be ideally. If you backtrack and we see what is it that we are linking to, we are linking it to the telecom network, to the telephone or the mobile phone era, which started off in 2000s. That's what we'll get into. The battery will not be the battery as in a cell phone, but it will be like the networks, or maybe an Airtel or a Vodafone, or somebody doesn't pay, you can actually switch off the vehicle or remotely control the asset. Those are the kind of use cases which we as AutoWord are working on, and we work very closely with OEMs such as Aura. And we have already done this Battery leasing, it's working pilot in a commercial use. It's worked fairly well. We are doing a daily collection, for example, with one of our B2B customers. It's working fantabulously well. It works well for the customer. It works well for us. And it's working very well for Aura because they've got the money.
It works really well for us as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is where
Good.
kind of the tech piece also comes in. So if I could just like quickly jump in, what
Sure.
Sachin actually said was, how do we make life easy for the customer, the B2B guy, the fleet operator, or even a consumer? His life or her life has to be easy. For that, the tech has to make that life easy. So it's a full stack hardware plus software solution that talks directly to the API of AutoWorld's financing platform, that guy just checks on his mobile phone and he knows whether his vehicle will run today or not, because whether he's done his recharge or not. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as pressing #121 on your non-smartphone.
Yeah. So we have talked about.
Yeah. So my had
Sorry.
one
Yeah.
point.
Please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, from a B2C angle, if we look at this model, for an OEM, it's a big challenge, right? Who owns the battery? A. Second, in B2C vehicles, the battery is not standardized, so it calls for standardization of battery. C, very important point is GST. I have to pay double, right?
Yeah.
Separate GST for having the battery separate and selling the vehicle separate. So for OEMs, I think somewhere some work has to be done to maybe making it friendly for the OEMs if in the B2C segment. For B2B, yes, definitely this model works out. But for direct consumers, I think that's a big challenge. Even we were trying to also think some business around that, but that's the challenge we are facing. So that's another point I wanted to make. Yeah.
So I have a last couple of questions, but please, I would request the audience to start putting in your questions. I'm just kind of browsing through. I think one question is coming out in terms of, we haven't really discussed the entire catch-22, the charging stations, the swapping aspects and so forth, right? And I heard Sachin, you mentioned that, yes, you have a charger at home. Great solution. You can charge and do the 70, 75, 100 kilometers for most of these vehicles. But again, what if I don't have a specific charging spot in my apartment? I know Orha Energy, you can pick up these units as a suitcase and get it charged at home. That's another option. I know Madhumita, you guys have been trying out the swapping aspects and so forth as well. Can you guys talk about how do you convince the customer on the range anxiety piece? Is it just normal charging? Does it need to have all of these charging stations in place? Is it swapping? Is it, I think there was one question, can it be a kind of a battery bunk you carry alongside the scooter, right? Or the bike? Thoughts, guys?
Can I take a stab at this?
Sure, please do, please.
Okay, so we have been doing battery packs for several years now. We have the entire sort of portfolio from end to end of different types of customers. We have OEMs all the way to fleet operators running low cost vehicles, OEMs running high power systems. This whole battery swapping versus charging versus everything has almost become some sort of a religious belief type of a question. It's so charged up, pun intended. It completely depends on the business model. The OEM one of the OEMs that we're speaking to has they are doing for both passenger as well as cargo vehicles. It is not a two-wheeler. They have decided to go ahead with putting a large enough battery pack that covers the entire range of that person that users ride during the day. That is one choice that they have made. What this, of course, means is what Sachin was mentioning in terms of the upfront cost. They are optimizing for the range during the day versus the upfront cost. The other people, for example, like a Bounce or somebody, and Vivek often talks about this, is focusing on the swap. While reducing the cost of the vehicle upfront, they are increasing the operational complexity, which they are able to manage. So which is the cost are you optimizing for? Are you optimizing for reducing your operational complexity, which is like a swap station or a charging station or something like that? If you don't want that operational complexity, you just put a big enough battery pack so you just have enough juice for the day. Or are you able to manage this operational complexity where you can then reduce your battery cost by a lot? You can have only half or 1/3 of your battery pack capacity, but you swap during the day or you charge during the day or any of that. So this is why the way we build our systems when we build for our battery pack customers is that they are chemistry agnostic and they are swap ready. What do you want? What is your operation? What is the cost you're willing to pay for, and which cost? Because if they don't pay for the cost of the battery packs upfront, they're going to pay for the cost of the swap.
OpEx, right?
Is it that they want the OpEx, or do they want the CapEx? This is just the question. It has nothing to do with like some crazy religious question or something as startling as that guy who went viral who took his Aether up to his flat. None of that. It's just which cost are you willing to pay for, because both of them come at a cost. Like Sachin was mentioning, the batteries are the most expensive part of the Eevee. So you have to figure out how you're going to decouple this. And if you want an OpEx, that's great. And hence OpEx really works for B2B guys. Or if you want CapEx, that really works because that's what B2C guys want. So that's
thoughts?
Yeah, I think as Ranjita mentioned that for B2C, definitely at the CapEx side, you will try to optimize. But is the consumer Bharat for whom we are making, for whom Oben is building, is they ready to pay that extra amount? I think they are not. They are not ready to the extra because they are shifting to EV for cost. For not, I think the early adopter could be the EV enthusiast, but the real Bharat who drive the automotive industry, they are about cost, they are about the product. So I think somewhere swapping infrastructure or swapping as a service doesn't make economic sense for the consumer. It is costlier than petrol. What will definitely fix batteries are not the way to go. Definitely it has to be a removable battery, but somewhere the maths has to be by lowering the cost or optimizing the system, but the cost has to go on the operation side, right? So I think for us, I think what we have taken is a removable battery, charge anywhere, take it to your house or charge it anywhere, wherever you kind of park your vehicle or take your battery. But the swapping as a service, still for the B2C consumers, I don't think yet on the cost benefits for the maybe tier 1 cities are, consumers are fine paying, but not the real Bharat is not ready to pay that extra amount.
Got it. Vishnu, any thoughts on the charging versus swapping, a mix of both? How do you see this? Maybe from a B2B and a B2C perspective?
I kind of tend to agree with both of them. B2C is unlikely to take up swapping because it's not, as Madhumita was mentioning, there needs to be a certain amount of density in where the swapping stations are being operated, without which swapping economics do not work out, not just for the consumer side, even for the operators. So swapping is likely to be more concentrated in dense, big urban areas where you can have like a certain density of vehicles which are using the same swapping networks, because again, standardization and all of that comes in. And I actually think that in the two-wheeler space, swapping will more be restricted to the fleet operators. But in the three-wheeler space, it might be a little more opened up. You will see swapping stations where, a rickshaw guy coming and swapping the station. I mean, it also has added benefits, right? Like on the commercial vehicle side, the downtime should be like as minimum as possible. They can't just spend their time. I mean, I was speaking to this Hyderabad auto rickshaw operator, and I was asking whether he prefers swapping or, charging. And he's like, sir, I forget to charge my phone many times. What if I forget to charge this three-wheeler for overnight 8 hours, and his entire income is wiped off.
Yeah.
So he doesn't want the behavior change. He just want to go somewhere, get it, and just get done with this fueling process in 2 minutes. So from the commercial side, I still see that there is a huge use case for swapping. But when it comes to home B2C, it is likely to be home charging. While I slightly disagree with what Renchita said on that, the guy putting up a, I do agree that was a little bit too over the top for the social media to take your vehicle up till your kitchen. But he had an important point to make. What will you do if you live on the 10th floor of your apartment complex? And I mean, if I have I only own a bicycle, by the way. I don't have a car or bike, but just in case, if I have a scooter, the question I want to ask is, do I really want to carry my 10
Battery pack.
Battery to 10 floors and bring it down? It's just not convenient, right? So I think from the charging perspective, we need to have solutions which are low cost. A lot of companies in charging space currently are very focusing on the hardware and patents and all of that. I think hardware is going to get ubiquitous. Everyone is going to need to have a hardware for the charging part of it. So make at least for the two-wheeler part, make low-cost chargers, sockets, plug it, and that can be plugged into the common electricity pool in your apartment complexes. Someone needs to come up with a solution that can solve this. It's mostly a business model issue and not a technology issue when it comes to charging. That's
good. And one question came up, if any one of you want to take this up, won't fast charging eliminate the need of swapping?
Yes. No.
No.
Am I on mute? No, I'm on. No, fast charging has a tendency to kill the health of the battery, because most of them are on lithium-ion chemistries, and fast charging tends to impact the health of the battery pack over the lifetime. The ideal solution, as Vishnu correctly mentioned, is a business model issue. There are people going to RWAs, BESCOMs and other DISCOMs mandating RWAs, commercial complexes and offices to have a certain X% of their parking spaces dedicated to EV charging. Slow charging is ideal for battery packs because, you of course have to take care of your battery pack. It's a thing that's going to last for 7 to 8 years. So you have to take care of its health, So that is why swapping or slow charging for a majority of the time would be ideal, because you charge the battery pack slowly, and hence, the chemistry of it is taken care of, and your battery pack can last longer. Making your battery pack last longer is the most important thing. Like Sachin was saying, the battery, most cases, can last longer than the lifetime of the vehicle. What that means is that you have economic value of your battery pack at the end of the vehicle's useful life. Why would you give that away by degrading the battery's health early on? Mm-hmm. You should maximize the battery's health. It lasts longer than your vehicle. Reuse that battery pack at a different use case, a different place, a different anything, and derive economic value, because that is the most economic part of your vehicle, and you need to reduce that impact. So yeah.
And Sachin, what kind of lifetime are you seeing for the batteries now? I mean, based on actual real life use cases and so forth?
We are working with very good OEMs. So what we've seen is the battery life the degradation is very less, because these are superior battery packs, superior cells. So I believe a good 7 to 8 years easy, and a 5 years is a given for a replacement of a battery, if at all you need to think of it. So currently under the FAME 2 policy, the OEMs are required to give a warranty of 3 years or X number of kilometers. 3 years is a given. And I think kilometers, people are giving 20,000, 30,000 kilometers, but good battery packs, 50,000 kilometers should not be an issue at all.
And the second life, what is the price points that's starting from? Is it
we are yet to see second life,
or it hasn't? We haven't gone into that phase as yet, is it?
We'll be the earliest guys to get there. In the next 3 to 6 months, we'll have our first set of actual 3-year completed batteries. If the vehicle owners decide to return the vehicle to us as a part of our subscription plans, but if they decide to retain, we will not know it. But we believe come Jan-Feb of 2022, we will start seeing our first few customers coming back, and then we'll know actually what the prices are. In fact, just on this forum, I've got a request from one of the battery recyclers to connect with him as we speak. So,
and would you then kind of do a second life of the batteries, and what do you do with the original chassis?
Currently there is a good case for second life of the vehicle itself. So we've got vehicles returned back to us, and we are reselling it back into the market to second-hand buyers. And
with a new fitted battery, is it?
Not with no. The batteries have. I mean, these are just less than 2.5 years.
Okay, got it.
So
Okay.
they've got a good life, and these batteries are we kind of have them certified by the OEM, and we are giving it out for these will last for X number of kilometers, etc.
So these are traditional second-hand vehicles, essentially.
No. This is only EVs.
Only EVs. Yeah.
Only EVs. We are focused. We are only an EV focused platform.
Yes. No, I mean second-hand EVs.
Yeah.
Got it. So I think we are running almost at 3:30. I'd love to get any parting thoughts from all of you. Please let's start with Ranjita, please. And actually, this could be anything in terms of wants from IoT Forum, what you like to see from the community, what kind of help would you like to see, or the direction. I mean, Subranil has put together the automotive SIG, right? Mohan and Subranil. So as part of this initiative, is there any specific drive you want IoT Forum to take?
Cool. So just my parting thought, I have it in 2 parts. One is that we really need to hack the consumer conversion mindset to EVs. The low-cost market is a very short-term vision. It will not continue because the demand for performance vehicles in any format is inevitably going to increase. And for performance vehicles, having credible, sustainable tech is a non-negotiable. It's a no-brainer, right? Owning the IP and owning the tech is a no-brainer. Now, when we have that we need to own the tech and own the IP, how are we going to finance this? We need creative, in quotes, financing solutions for these tech-driven IP-owning businesses. If it can be some sort of NIH or DARPA kind of a program.
Grants,
grants, but with end objective and milestones, not just open-ended grants. Nobody wants that, right? An NIH or a DARPA kind of a grant, which is for a project, which is time-bound and milestone-based. Corporate projects can do a similar sort of a work. The TIE and the IoT Forum, you have fantastic corporate network. Corporate projects as well, which are milestone-driven, R&D oriented, and time-bound, that helps, of course, with R&D development. And other things like debt and equity. It doesn't have to be necessarily equity funding. Debt can also work. But really creative financing pieces, there are 3 parts of the financing. One is R&D, manufacturing, and selling of the vehicle. Getting the vehicle to the customer's hands, of course, there are lots, AutoVert is one fantastic example of it. R&D and manufacturing is hence the next part, which requires some sort of creativity in that. Yeah, so that's my parting shot.
Thanks. Madhumita?
Yeah, I think one point is definitely financing as the topic, financing the EV manufacturing or the hardware. Let's not say just EV, hardware. I think somewhere the Indian financial institutions are yet to be there. A startup from POC to go to market for a hardware startup. it's still very, very tough to get funded, get a trust from the investors, because somewhere the gap is there to understand the manufacturing piece or getting to the market. So maybe a forum like TIE could bring up those experts, those who can not only bring their expertise of understanding, but also the finance piece of it. So that's one thing is what I would say, because there are many brilliant startups doing stuffs out of their workshops. We are like an exception because I have run a business, so it's a different story for us. But startups coming out of really great products, but they are just dying. When I say startups, people those are doing really innovating and making products, not getting the 2-3 containers from China and kind of
assembling it. Yeah, correct.
assembling it. We are talking about real startups. Those are really putting their heart and soul in everything. So I think forum like TIE should work out something focusing just on hardware. There is a lot talks going on, definitely. Even there are forum like IoT forum is about that. But we have to go a little next level, that from POC to go to the market, we need that kind of a push or support. I think that's something is very, very needed.
Vishnu?
I do not have any parting thoughts to tie, but I really have a larger appeal to the end consumers or the customers. Start buying Eevee, folks. It is not just important for us or the OEMs, but hey, we need to save the planet too. This is one major step that India needs to take towards addressing climate change. So I know that just does not appeal to the Indian consumer usually, but you can buy the product at the similar affordable rates and save the planet too. So please, that's it.
Sachin?
I think we are at very nascent stages. It's just the start of an industry. So, like automobile industry has been decades old. We're just getting started in the EV space. So there are going to be lots of iterations, lots of learnings. And I think the whole ecosystem will need to come together to ensure that they come up with solutions which are targeted towards meeting the needs and the wants of the end consumer. And that is something which we believe that forums such as the TI IoT forums and such forums will help enable, because there are connects like Ranjita was pointing out, Madhumita was pointing out, that you've got connects in the corporate sector, in the respective industries as well. So it's a matter of collaborating and ensuring that can we work towards a particular problem, work towards a solution, putting all the pieces together, and we will get there.
No, I think this is a very good segue. I think one area we would probably see many times we see to a certain angle our IoT forum TIE. We have got, as you rightly pointed out, we can reach out to the government, we can reach out to the stakeholders, we can reach out to the corporates, the investors, and so forth, right? But you guys need to come on board and tell us what exactly is the need, right? Because you guys are down in the field, you know exactly the problems and so forth. So I would request, maybe Subranil will organize a separate session with all of you guys to kind of come on board, join this, and spend some time as a community, whatever you guys need. We will probably be the facilitators, right, at the back end.
Sure.
Making action, putting in, but you guys need to tell us, hey, these are the 5 things and this is the structure. This is what we need. Can you guys go in and try to make this happen? Right. So please, I request Subranil and Mohan to kind of take this as part of our automotive SIG and put maybe a framework or so forth together. For the entire EV community, we can do some creative stuff, right? More instead of each individual startup trying to do, we can hold kind of more of a collective effort as well, and we can bring CII and other pieces of the puzzle in as well. Yeah, so I think we are done out here. Over to you, Subranil and TR, please.
Great. So I think nothing more to add. It was an excellent session, and I think I completely agree with Sachin's point, and that's the work we have been doing also at the World Bank Group, is trying to bringing the different players together in the ecosystem, starting with the OEMs, the fleet operators, the financiers, and engaging with them, the governments like the Niti Ayogs of the world, plus also with the state governments, because urban transport is a kind of state subject in India, so it's very important to engage with them as well. And so I guess on that note, I think it was a kind of great session, and we'll be happy to kind of remain connected. So as so mentioned, so let's try to kind of reconvene at a certain point and try to see as to what exact areas we can like take up in the next couple of months to kind of formulate some kind of
Please
action
note
plan.
down your thoughts, right?
Yes.
Just note down your thoughts and send it over, right?
Yes.
With what specific action items that needs to be taken.
Yes, and I think that's also the
specific to your startup, but overall.
Yes, and I think we also are having an IoT day coming up, I think in the month of October, right? So, and I think that will be a much larger event. So
IoT Matrix, IoT
yes.
Matrix. That's in
yes, the IoT Matrix.
Our annual.
Yes. So we will have like maybe like 2 sessions on electric mobility. So we'll be happy to discuss and brainstorm and kind of discuss as to what we want to kind of cover in those sessions. So if there are any other points from like TR, sir, or anybody, please.
Yeah, thank you, Subranil, and thanks, Som, and all the participants, Anand here. We should certainly take up and do a deep dive. I put it in the chat also during IoT Matrix, that's on December 9th and 10th, that's a 2-day event. And we will certainly have the auto EV track, and we should get the relevant stakeholders to build the not just awareness, to build the action items and influence actions and policy. Over to you, Subranil. Thanks, everyone.
Great. Thank you. Vijeta, do you want to say some last parting words?
Yes, Vijeta, over to you.
Vijeta or Vinay?
Yeah, so I'm just sharing the previous IoT Matrix link in the chat. So those of you who want to understand better about IoT Matrix, you could go visit the link. And I will also, Vijeta will also be speaking now. I just made him the co-host. Vijeta, you could unmute yourself.
Guys, thank you very much. This was a wonderful session. Okay. And to let everyone know, I mean, I'm getting a lot of pings that we're not picking up the phone. We're not able to. Listen, the office is closed. I repeat, the office is closed. Do not bother to call the numbers. Email us. We have put the messages out there. We are easily findable, LinkedIn messages. We are a team of just 2-3 people, and this is how we bring whatever 90, 100 people together. So this is the only message that I want to say. Phenomenal sessions, but we are a small team. You want to get in touch with us, make the effort, write to us, become a members. I stress, become members of Type Bangalore, and then we will be more receptive and we will try to respond better to you guys. All right. We are a very small team, so it's very difficult for us to reach out and reply back. People are asking us for direct contacts. If Ranjita, Sachin, Suranil, you want to put your email IDs and your LinkedIn profiles here, whoever wants to get in touch with you will do that. We will not be doing any direct connects to anyone. I repeat, no direct connections will be done. It is the responsibility of the people here to reach out or connect to the speakers on their own. We do not do direct connections. We will try our best to reply back. We are a community platform. Please go to our YouTube video. You will see every single session is out there. You want to get some more support from us, become our member. Pay us, support us, partner with us. We want sponsors. We want these kind of people. But there's a lot of stuff happening, okay? And we want to help you guys out. We have a lot of SIGs going on. Become part of the volunteer team of the IoT Forum. The IoT Matrix is coming up in December. All of you must be there. But now, first is the shout out has to go for first to Ranjita. You are awesome, Ranjita. We really loved your information and everyone. And listen, guys, remember that Som is not the moderator alone out here. He's an investor. Get in touch with him. He's the guy you should be chasing, not us. And of course, TR Anand is here. He's the chair of the IoT Forum. Vinay Dora is always there to help you guys with everything that you need. But Vishnu and Subranil, you guys have been tremendous support for us. Madhumita, it was a delight to listen to you. I will reach out to all you guys on LinkedIn, by the way. So please accept my, connect and but let's help each other out. And thank you, Som, as always. You're fantastic. Absolutely no questions on that. And I think 2.5 hours, 1.5 hours, 1 hour 40 minutes has just passed like this.